Hello everyone, LBT 75 here, and welcome back to my channel for good. And I am so relieved that I'm back in my channel after a few months ago, or a few days away. Sorry, after my last video that I just did, even a live stream. So I'm not just gonna do that today. I'll probably do those later. But I hope you're all doing good. And today I am here with a video that I haven't done in a long time. This is a video that I should have done ever since 2019 on my old YouTube channel. Ever since my top 10 best or worst movies of that time, but really, now it's the time for me to do my only top 10 worst Disney movies of all time. In my opinion. Yes. This is LBT's top 10 worst Disney movies. And yeah, let me just say that I'm not a fan of Disney. I used to be a fan of Disney when I was younger, but looking at the company now, it really doesn't hold up. But I'll admit, there are some theme park attraction and some things that could really interest me. But other than that, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the worst Disney movies that I've ever seen, ever since when I was young and still to this day. And I just could not find these movies enjoyable. Not at all. So before we get into the real top 10, let's go into the dishonorable mentions. Alright then. And these are the random picks, in my opinion. My dishonorable mentions will be Jungle Book 2. Man, that movie was a disappointment. It couldn't feel it all. I can't believe I watched that movie as a kid, but looking back at it now, it just did not hold up at all. I just find the movie pretty stupid. And then there's Raya and the Last Dragon. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, LBT. Raya and the Last Dragon is a good movie. Screw you, like that. I mean, yeah, I know that movie has fans, but for me, I just couldn't find the movie enjoyable. I find the movie boring. It's nothing but a cheap ripoff of How to Train Your Dragon or recreation of Mulan. But, yeah, that movie's stupid. Then there's Tangled, and I'm sorry, but this is my opinion, so I really don't like it nearly as much. I really don't like it. I pretty much agree with Inside Fan on that one. Not the worst Disney movie of all time, but I've kind of movie very forgettable. Then there's Moms Needs Moms. And no. I don't want to talk about that monstrosity of a film. Moving on. 5 is Underdog, and 6 is Hercules. Another Disney movie that I agree with Inside Fan on. So, Inside Fan, if you're watching this video is for you, and it'll definitely cheer me up. Even though there's some parts that you couldn't stand, but I'll admit. Yeah, you're lucky that you put Hercules on your top 10 worst movies in your ranking video, so good job on that. And that's about it. And I hope you guys enjoy my dishonorable mentions of the worst Disney movies I generally disliked. Now let's move on to the top 10, starting with number 10. Coming at number 10 is Emperor's New Groove.
What? No, please.
And I know what you're thinking, and you're like, oh, LBT, why is that on the bad list? And yeah, I know a lot of people like this classic movie, and they give it so much praise, and oh my lord. Let me just say that I really don't like Emperor's New Groove. I really don't like it. I thought it was a pretty disturbing movie for me, and easily one of the worst things I've ever seen. Not the worst Disney movie of all time, don't get me wrong, but I just find the movie very forgettable in my opinion. But however, the only good parts of the movie that I generally like is Pacha, played by John Goodman. I mean, he's the saving grace for me, but yeah, I mean, Pacha as and his family, they're pretty likable in my opinion. Pretty likable family, but other than that, that's all the goods. And yeah, and the real problem I have is Emperor Cusco being this selfish brat who cares about anything about himself. Like, yeah, he's such a very mean-spirited character. Long before Chicken Little on the way, but hey, it's worth a shot. And yeah, and the villain is stupid. I mean, he's basically the same thing like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it's just stupid. I mean, yeah, Emperor's New Groove on my number 10. I mean, yeah, it's just a stupid movie. I mean, I don't know why, but if you like this movie, I respect your opinion. But I know this movie has fans. I can totally understand, but me, I couldn't find anything good about this movie. Not at all. Coming at number 9 is Disney's Encanto, the recent Disney movie that came out last year. And man, I recently watched this on the Disney Plus, and it was boring.
So boring.
Encanto is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Literally. I mean, nothing about this movie is very enjoyable. But, yeah, but how about this? The only good parts I can say about this movie is some of the animation on the animal characters, and that's it. And, I mean, the movie would have been focused on animals instead of people all the time. Like, modern day Disney movies nowadays only feature people all the time. I mean, why people? I mean, animals need to get more appearances on Disney films. Like, give them dinosaurs or give them something like that. Like, I'm tired of just people and all that stuff. And yeah, the story is very generic. The characters are forgettable, and yeah, and the songs are like not even that great in my opinion. And there's too much singing in the movie. I mean,
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
yeah, every time I hear a song, I just wanted to get up and just walk away or something like that. I mean, the songs are very, very, very forgettable. I just wish that the film would please stop singing.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer.
Yeah, I just do not want to see this movie again. It's too boring and too generic. Alright then, let's move on to number 8. Coming at number 8 is Disney's Descendants. Yeah, this is the 2015 Disney movie. And let me just say, I barely last few minutes of the movie. And not to mention, this movie came out the exact same year as Jurassic World, which is a much better movie and a much better dinosaur movie, unlike Descendants. But Descendants here, it's just a plain ugly movie. Like, the story is very cliche. The characters are forgettable, especially Mal, played by Dove Cameron. My goodness. This movie is blatantly a ripoff of Disney's Enchanted, but which is a much better movie, and I'll get to that soon enough. But other than that, Disney's Descendants, I couldn't find anything enjoyable. I mean, and the sequels, don't get me started with the sequels. Just don't get me started on them. And number 7 is Frozen 2. Yeah, this is the 2019 animated film made by the Walt Disney Studios, who gave us films like Ralph Breaks the Internet and Big Hero 6 and Zootopia, those are much better movies. But here, Frozen 2, it just felt like dull and stupid, and yeah, this movie is one of the most infuriating movies I've ever seen in my entire life. The story makes no sense. The characters are just flat out forgettable, and they took away some of the moments of what made the first Frozen movie so good. And yeah, it's just the fact that Elsa turns himself into this creepy nightmare fuel. I mean, it looks very creepy, and the ending makes no sense at all. I mean, this is one of the most boring movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Oh, and not to mention, the movie is way too long. It is too long, too slow, and it's unnecessary. Like, what's even the point of this? I mean, Frozen 2, it's such a stupid movie. I mean, watching this movie is a waste of my time. Literally, a big waste of my time. So, yeah. I mean, I would rather skip this movie. Coming at number 6 is G-Force. Yeah, this is just a ridiculous looking Disney movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Just look at those CGI guinea pigs. They look good, but they don't fit well in this live action environment. They felt like something that should belong in an animated film instead of a live action movie. I mean, man, the characters are annoying. I mean, the villain, it makes no sense. And this movie is just a plain, stupid, god-awful looking movie. I mean, I find the movie boring, and yeah, it's not even that good in my opinion. Coming at number 5 is Disney's The Wild. This is a 2006 computer animated film that came after Chicken Little, which I'll get to that later. Yeah, Disney's The Wild, and as a kid, I used to like it, but as an adult, it's just a really ugly movie in my opinion. I mean, the whole movie is ugly, and first side, the animals look ultra realistic. At the second side, they look like cartoons. And I don't mind animals being cartoony in a computer animated film, which is fine by me, but the way that they did it here was so dull. So dull and very boring. And yeah, the story is very cliche, the characters are forgettable, and the songs are not even that great, and the animation, it doesn't hold up. I mean, the movie is just, it's just an ugly movie and very infuriating. If you want to see a better computer animated film with animals, watch Dinosaur. That movie is way better, unlike The Wild. And that movie deserves more praise, unlike The Wild. So Dinosaur is way better. But as for The Wild, the movie's stupid, boring, cheap, and not even that good. So, coming at number 4 is Home on the Range. This is a 2004 Disney animated film, a year after Brother Bear came out, which is much better. Yeah, Home on the Range is about these cows, and they just want to go on this stupid adventure, and this is a pretty disturbing movie. Like Emperor's New Groove, as I mentioned, this and Emperor's New Groove are pretty disturbing, especially Home on the Range, which I put it on my number 4 spot. So yeah, the story is not all that enjoyable. The characters are very forgettable, and the songs are very cringy as hell, and they're not even that good, and especially that yodeling song. And the villain is laughably terrible, even more so than Maleficent than Descendants. But yeah, most of the characters are annoying, and all of them are annoying. I couldn't find anything good about these characters, and not at all. And Home on the Range is just a plain mess of a movie. Coming at number 3 is Chicken Little, a 2005 Disney animated film after Home on the Range was a disappointment. And yeah, let me just say, I barely last few minutes of this movie, and my god, this movie was mean-spirited. I heard a lot of people rank this at their worst Disney movies, and I pretty much agree with these people. This movie is very mean-spirited and very, not all that enjoyable. Like, who lives in a world where people go out and make fun of the main protagonist just because something bad happens to it? And yeah, and the biggest offender here is Buck Cluck, Chicken Little's father, who is a careless looking character I've ever seen. I mean, he's basically an early version of Bill Richardson in Little Fires Everywhere, which is a god-awful series. I don't want to talk about it, and the characters are very hateable. Very hateable characters. Chicken Little is such a douchebag. He doesn't even know what he's up to against, and the movie is basically about this baseball and alien movie. Like, you can't combine two things together. It just doesn't make no sense. But how about this? The only good things I can say about this movie is the soundtrack. Like all these pop rocks, and I don't care if they add pop songs, but that's the only good thing about this movie. But other than that, the whole movie is just... Or not to mention, yeah, Foxy Loxy has got to be the worst characters I've ever seen in a movie. I hate to say this, but she's even worse than Buck Cluck, in my opinion. She just jack shit and make fun of Chicken Little and all that stuff. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, why do you have to poke fun of someone's every time something bad happens? Like, yeah, I mean, this movie's terrible. It was like, there are far better movies out there than Chicken Little. Coming at number 2 is the 2010 Alice in Wonderland movie, made by Tim Burton. And what the hell is this movie anyway?
What the hell is that?
Why? Like, this is a movie that no one asked for. I don't know why, but this movie should not have been made in the first place. This movie's terrible. The CGI looks ugly. It looks like a bad rendered video game movie. Like, yeah, even Jungle Book in 2019 Lion King movie did a much better job than this movie. The story is very generic. It's basically a recreation of the classic Alice in Wonderland movie, but they butcher it big time. Most of the characters are flat out forgettable. Alice is just a generic protagonist. She is very bland and very boring. And not to mention, yeah, Helena Barter as the Red Queen is very awful. And not to mention, her costume designs look like complete shit. And the Jabberwocky dragon, like, why the fuck did they add it in a movie like this?
Lame.
It is flat out ugly. It looks like shit. Yeah, I mean, the story looks like shit, the animation looks like shit, and most of the characters look like shit. At all. I mean, this and the sequel is what killed Alice for me. And these are the movies that I generally don't like at all. But I'll give you this. The only good things I can say about this movie is Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter and the White Queen. And obviously, those are the only good characters I like throughout this god-awful movie. But the problem is that they don't get enough screening time. We only see these characters for like an hour and a half, and that's it. And yeah, this movie is just a plain ugly movie. And thank God I put this on my number 2 worst Disney movies. And let me just say, it is worse than Chicken Little, worse than Frozen 2, and even worse than all these modern day Disney animated films. And this is one of them. And finally, the number 1 worst Disney movie I've ever seen in my entire life. This is the movie I hate, the movie I despise, the movie I bared me and myself to look at is no other than Princess and the Frog. Oh my lord.
This movie blows.
As bad as Chicken Little and Home on the Range are, this is the most insulting, the most infuriating, the most boring looking movies I have ever have to sit through. Like, this movie is just a big nightmare. And let me just say, my lord, this movie was just god awful. And yeah, this is without a doubt one of the worst Disney movies I've ever seen in my entire life, that actually came out the exact same year as Ice Age 3 and Up. I mean, seriously, sitting through this movie is painful, no matter how old you are. And yeah, the story is just, it makes no sense, and the characters are very, very forgettable and very annoying. And the only good characters I would care for is John Goodman's character and Tiana's dad, and they don't appear in the movie nearly as much as the main characters. And other than that, most of the characters are very hateable jerks. Tiana is just stupid, bratty, and all that stuff. Prince Naveen is just a generic prince character, and the crocodile is annoying and fat and just not all that good. And not to mention the villain, who is basically a knockoff of Professor Screwwise from Where Back at John's story. And the worst character I've ever seen in my entire life has to be Tiana's best friend, aka Charlotte. And she has got to be the most annoying characters. Every time I see her on the screen, I just wanted to just jump in there and strangle her, proving how much, or let her get eaten by the Rex. Proving how annoying this character really is. And not to mention, the soundtrack is absolutely terrible. I mean, none of it is memorable. They're just a bunch of cringy songs playing out in a movie and all that stuff. And I was like, just stop singing, dude. Stop it. Like, really. Yeah, everything about this movie is garbage. The story is garbage. The characters are garbage. And everything about this movie is pure garbage, in my opinion. And Princess and the Frog, in my opinion, is without a doubt the absolute worst Disney movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And it even makes films like Chicken Little, Frozen 2, and Home on the Range look like good movies in comparison, and good other movies that I liked, which is never going to happen at all. So, yeah, there you are for my number 1 pick. And I hope you guys enjoy this list of my top 10 worst Disney movies of all time. And man, I cannot stand these movies at all, and I would rather just ignore them and stay away from these movies for the rest of my entire life and move on to something else, something new, and something enjoyable. Just to remember, if you like any of these movies and if you don't agree with the things I said, that's fine. It's your opinion, but please respect my opinion. And I'm going to do my top 10 best Disney movies, the movies that I liked. And yeah, it's just my opinion. So if you enjoyed this video, please sure to like and subscribe, and and I hopefully I'll be able to do more videos in the near future. And not to mention that second trailer to Jurassic World Dominion came out, and the other thing, so stay tuned for that. And LBT here, see you guys next time.